So, when I was a little child, about 8 years old, I suffered from severe asthma, like a severe case of asthma. So I always had to breathe or inhale through a big and noisy inhaling machine that helped me to breathe. So it wasn't really delightful for me, for a child in that age. I wasn't able to play with my friends. I wasn't able to run around and enjoy my young life the way healthy children were able to do that. So my parents came up with the idea because they knew I love video games so much that they would just play during my inhaling sessions. So my father decided to play Resident Evil. For the people of you who know Resident Evil or who don't know Resident Evil, that's a horror zombie game, and that may not be the right game to show to an 8-year-old girl. That is inhaling and just breathing. Like, okay, but it was great. I loved the game. I loved watching him play it, and in that moment, I just totally forgot what I'm doing at the moment. I forgot about that I'm inhaling here and that I'm like not able to do other things I would like to do in that moment maybe. So this whole concept is called immersion. We all know it when we watch movies, series, or read books, or play video games. You're totally in it, you're like in another world. You just let yourself go into a virtual reality or maybe even like a movie, like I said. So you could explain it like it's a transition from reality into virtual reality. It's a state of mind or a state of consciousness where you just retreat from the reality, from the real world, and just identify yourself with a character of another media, like movies, series, video games. So there are a few factors in immersion that play a big role to define a level of immersion. I'll start off with the sensomotorical immersion. That means basically how good your senses work together, how good the flow is. Like when you're in a cinema, everything is dark around the screen and you just concentrate completely on the screen. There are no distractions in reality. You have the same with video games. The lesser the distractions are and the more the audiovisual stuff plays together in your senses and the controls and everything, the higher the level of immersion gets. Then you have the visual immersion. That's a bit different from the sensomotorical. It means the way it looks. I'm just going to stay at video games. That means if a virtual world looks credible for you, it doesn't have to look real, it just has to look plausible for your human mind, because our human minds are drilled on patterns, like a chair is a chair, a table is a table. We all know that, and the more it looks like that, you just know what it is. But in video games, it doesn't really have to look real, but it has to look credible. Yeah. So the next factor of immersion is the emotional or empathic immersion. That means when you can identify with a character of a movie, book, or game, so your emotions get more real and you feel with them. We all know that when we watch maybe Game of Thrones or something, we are totally in it and we hate the other character and love characters. We just know this feeling, and this is the thing why I want to introduce immersion, because we feel it every day when we watch movies or play video games, but we don't really think about this concept. So this is immersion, and this is why I was able to forget about my disease while my father played Resident Evil, and I was able to interact. I just nodded when he said, should I go there? And I just nodded like, yeah, please do it. It's like different from a movie. So the most important factor in immersion in video games, and only video games have this factor, it's called the spatial immersion. That means when you're in a virtual room with a character, the more you can interact with this room and with this whole virtual world, the higher the level of immersion gets. For example, you're in a virtual room with your character, and you have two objects that you can interact with, like a table or an apple. And the level of immersion is okay, but it's not really high. But when you're in a room and you have like a dozen of objects you can actually interact with, or you can manipulate the world you're in, the more real it just feels for you. So this is like the special thing about video games and immersion in video games. So what can immersion do for people with severe diseases? Doesn't matter if mental or physical. It does exactly the same for me, just it can be so much bigger if we accept that video games can actually have a positive impact in our lives. It already has a positive impact in our lives, but for the people with severe diseases, it can do so much more. It's clear that people with severe illnesses are, have boundaries and are limited in their life. They can't achieve the things that maybe a healthy person can achieve. For example, a person with multiple sclerosis can't run and walk the way a healthy person can, so they are limited in their life. So let's go to children, especially in this section. Children, they are still growing, they're still getting to know themselves, they are I'm really talking about children with severe illnesses like cancer, leukemia, who are forced into isolation and don't have the possibility to maybe even play or have contact with healthy children because they are so ill, they need treatment every day and have to be observed every day. So the thing is that they are still growing and they don't really get the opportunity to feel like a kid, actually. It sounds maybe a bit irritating because they are kids, but like I said, their everyday life is filled with treatments, appointments in the hospital. Maybe they even live in a hospital and don't have the possibility to even go outside due to their condition. So video games can really help in this section because you have certain achievements and challenges that video games give you, and you can interact, actually. You really can do things to make you feel better, to be motivated. And this can really help children that are in this kind of situation because they really maybe even think they are different and don't feel like a part of society or something. And video games can just give them this one moment, this one glimpse that they just distract themselves or forget about their condition, or even educate themselves about their condition. So I want to engage the idea of playrooms in hospitals. It's already happening. In California, there's a charity. They provide hardware, software, merchandise from different video game companies who donate. And children in the hospital are able to play, even with each other. And it's just so great to see how happy it makes them. Just in this one moment, maybe in a week, where they can just be kids and just laugh and just forget all about this condition they have. This playrooms would be just another possibility. Of course, there would have to be regulations, and kids shouldn't play like 12 hours a day or first-person shooters and stuff like that. I'm talking about adventure games, point-and-click adventures, for example, if you're familiar with that. Just games that tell a story. For example, my company where I work at, we made a game which is about a boy laying in a coma, but we coded it in a very fantasy setting. So it educates the players about this condition and that it's really happening and that it's reality, that people suffer from this kind of conditions. We just wanted to focus on making this a big point in the game, a big topic in the game. So that's the one thing. Now I want to focus on the people who suffer from mental disorders. This can also be adults. For example, in the Army, I have a lot of friends in the Army. My father was in the Army, and I experienced that many people of them suffer from anxiety, major depression, or post-traumatic stress disorder. So I talked to a friend of mine, and he said, video games give him so much more because he's still in his comfort zone, but he has to think outside of the box, and he can just feel significant again, or worthy. It helps him to reflect on his own situation. It depends, of course, always on the game you're playing, but it helps you to discover yourself also. So he said video games are so much more, give him so much more than the medication he gets from the Army that comes often with life-threatening side effects. Of course, some people really need this medication, but video games can be like another treatment. So I like to say that like hospitals and medication, they take care of your body, they take care of your health in general, of your body. But like video games could be like another treatment for your soul and for your mind. It can really help you. So another thing I want to engage is that developing video games, especially with and for these people, or even for people like us, that we are like have this So we think more about this matter, that it's actually there and that we should take care of these kind of people still, although we're healthy and stuff, and we're not really experiencing this in our life right now, but people are experiencing this, these problems, and we should focus more on that. So developing video games, especially with them, so you can just educate other people about their condition, would be like a great thing, especially with the growing interest for VR in the community, and especially in general. It's getting really big. Just imagine a kid in a wheelchair, for example. Pretty simple. It plays a game on virtual reality. I hope you know what it is. It's just when you wear these glasses and you can look around and just everything seems so real. Imagine a kid in a wheelchair sitting there, having the glasses on, and just pushing a button, and it can experience running, jogging. Just really simple. Things like that can already have a huge positive impact on these kind of people. For us, it's maybe nothing special, but these little things, they can make such a difference for them. Just experiencing them once in life, because they can't experience it in reality. So these are the ideas I would like to engage and just make you think about it, make you think about immersion itself and about what positive impacts it can have on different lives, like on ours, on people with severe diseases, on children. And yeah, I hope you are going to think about it. And I'm finished.